From a distant galaxy, they have come to Earth. Dolph Lundgren as He-Man, Frank Langella as Skeletor. Only they have the powers to be masters of the universe. Live the adventure.
A world where anything seems possible, and nothing is what it seems.
Everything I've done for you.
This Organized Chaos podcast is brought to you by JEMS Art Studio. This podcast is also brought to you by listeners like you. Thank you. Hello, and welcome to another Organized Chaos podcast. Once again, the single greatest episode of any podcast ever. Congratulations on joining. Bobby will not be joining me today. He is being awful and like spending time with his wife and going on a vacation.
What a terrible thing
God,
to do.
How selfish. What a jerk. What a jerk, seriously. I called up George. George is here. How you doing, George?
I'm doing good. Thanks, Bob.
Yeah, I'm glad you could prioritize the podcast over your personal life, unlike some people.
I mean, I could totally be taking a nap right now.
Yeah, no, I would never ever take a nap right before the podcast and kind of
or doing dishes or laundry.
I would never do something like that. I've never.
No, we don't do those things around here.
No, but seriously, it looks like I've been seeing some of his pictures. It looks like Bobby's having some fun. Looking for he will be back next week, of course. But this week, George and I will be doing a Garbage and Tears for Fears album ranking. Except we won't. Except that fell through too.
Well,
this is. Oh, go ahead, George.
Show was postponed, so we might do that later.
Yes.
Do an album.
Yes.
Thing later. Okay.
It wasn't that the show was postponed. It's just our ability to go to the show was postponed.
I still don't know if I can make it or not. I really, really want to.
I hope you can. I've seen clips and it looks good.
Yeah, and I've been seeing people talk about it too, and they said they're still putting on really good shows.
Mm-hmm. It should be good, but yeah, we'll figure that out later. That will likely be coming sometime in June, though, in about a month. So, at the last minute, George and I had to completely figure out what we're doing for a podcast, and we decided to pick out some childhood underrated movies. We are going to be talking about the Much Loathed, although I think we're going to have some controversial opinions here, because everybody hates this movie, but we're going to be talking about Masters of the Universe, 1987, right?
Yep. I almost thought that both of the movies that we're talking about came out in the same year, but that is not the case. They're 1 year apart.
That's right, isn't? Yeah, Labyrinth is 86, I believe.
1986. I could have sworn that was 87.
I was thinking they were both 86, so I think we were both in a similar path. wanted to say 86 for Universe, but I was like, wait, I think it's 87. I mean,
yeah.
But yes, we will also be talking about Labyrinth. And you might be like, Labyrinth isn't underrated. What are you talking about? And I'm like, and we will get to that when we get to the discussion. But before we got to that, I thought it'd be fun to actually talk to George, because he's done the podcast a few times. Nice to formally introduce him. So, hey, George, how you doing?
Doing okay.
Yeah.
Yep, George, Bob and I go way back. What are we coming up on now, Bob?
We've known each other for 2 years.
2 years.
Yes, because I'm 22.
I think we met in the year 2000, and that was 2 years ago, right?
Yes, that sounds right.
Yeah, okay. Right. That means I'm 20. You're a year older than me, I think, so I'm 21. Yeah, we're going.
No, actually, I'm only a couple of months older than you.
Oh, I thought you were almost like a year older. Oh, okay.
No, so I'm in August of 1981.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So maybe it's Jill. Jill might be a year older then.
Jill is 9 days younger than me. Yeah.
I can't keep up with this anymore.
I know.
Anyways, we met We met 2 years ago, back in good old the year 2000.
Yeah. The year 2000, the far off future date.
Yes.
How's your flying car going?
Well, I had to get a tune-up this evening, but that's after I had my hydrated pizza, of course. Pizza Hut.
Yes.
No product placement here.
Stuff.
I didn't say any product placement.
Yeah.
Nope.
And you can mail the check too.
People only do things because they get paid.
Yeah. Oh, I'm getting a headache.
Here, take 2 of these.
Yes, but yeah, George and I are friends from college, broadcasting school. We mainly met because George was doing a band, and what? That's right. There was a group in broadcasting school, and there was 3 of us, and then there was Matt, and then he introduced the 2 of us. And I don't remember what that original project was. Do you?
I'm trying to remember.
Yeah.
And we worked on a project before we did the band stuff. I don't remember what the project was. Yeah. Something for Harry and Jeff, I think.
I don't remember it all either.
But I think I wore my Pink Floyd shirt when we talked about Pink Floyd for a little bit.
Yeah, for a while, yeah.
They're like, oh, you like Pink Floyd too? Do you like Star Wars? Yeah, I like Star Wars. Okay, we can be friends.
Yes. We can be friends now.
Yeah.
You've passed.
Yeah, I think the band stuff came a little later because we, let's see, I think I met Ryan later that year, and I met him through Earl, who was also in our class.
Mm-hmm.
And
yes, that's right.
Yeah. So I'm trying to remember. So we did a show, but Ryan wasn't in the band yet. It was still John. So we did a show, and then John left. Ryan joined. Yes. Then we recorded the album for part of the school projects because we were allowed to use the studio after night, and we did the videos for our video projects, which we were allowed to use the Final Cut studio after hours. Did we sleep?
Yes. I don't know.
It seemed like we were doing that every night, almost. Yeah,
well, I just remembered, I was more on the video end, and you were definitely more the audio end, and just kind of, we were a good team.
So, yeah, the videos were really cool. I remember we sampled tons of movies, and
yes.
I remember I can't remember all of it, but one of the funniest parts was we had a clip of the Never-Ending Story. We were using all the nothing shots of the landscapes and things like that. The rock biter kept popping up every time we were trying to do an edit. We're like, oh, how do we get the rock biter out of that shot? So, yeah.
But yeah.
That was good times.
Yeah, in case you're wondering, the band was called Atom Structure, and they were it was a big band. It was a big band in
2001, 2002.
Sure, yes, it's very popular. You heard it all over the radio. You may not remember it, but it was huge.
we had a couple groupies, a couple of people that followed us around and were really into it. We had a show that we played at. We did all those videos, Bo, and I think we only ever used them for one show.
Yeah,
and we played.
That's what I was thinking, man. Do you still have the videos and stuff like that?
I do. Yeah, I have everything.
You might want to set up some sort of YouTube thing or something.
Yeah, maybe. I still have the master tapes.
Yeah, we are literally brainstorming stuff we could do to promote a band from 20 years ago.
If I had an ADAT machine, I could actually remix it and actually make it sound halfway decent. It sounds a little lacking on the bass end. There's not a lot of bass on it.
Yeah.
And
actually, I was going to ask you.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to ask you if you had any of the original track recordings. Because actually, I was kind of interested. Maybe I would experiment and do a remix or something. I wouldn't mind trying something out. I've learned a lot about audio in the past couple years, and it's I kind of want to experiment.
Yeah, if I could just find someone with an ADAT machine that is willing to bounce the tracks down to WAV files or something. Yeah. Because I think Ryan and I have talked about doing a revisit on a track or two.
That could be cool.
Yeah.
I'd be down for that. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a few tracks on there I still really like. No, I don't feel the same way about all of the songs, but there's still a few on there that I really like.
Yeah, I remember liking, especially, was it the fourth one? I think it was the fourth one you were working a lot on at that time.
The fourth one?
Was it?
Like song number 4?
No, the fourth. You did the fourth album.
Oh, yeah, that's the one we did, was the fourth. I did 3 with John, and then we did the fourth one, and then we were going to work on the 5th one, but that fell through.
Yeah,
so
real life sucks.
Real life happens. Ryan and I did do a few tracks together. When I transferred to OU, he came over for a few sessions, and we did a few things, and then I started doing stuff with Melissa. And that's what I'm doing now. I'm kind of doing this, it's kind of like, it's more 80s sounding. It definitely has like a synth wave kind of new wave kind of one. So I've gotten good.
Yeah, I haven't heard a whole lot of your stuff with Melissa. I wouldn't mind hearing it.
So we have,
I'm trying to think,
we have a bunch of instrumentals done. We haven't gotten so far down vocals. We've done a little bit here and there, but it's really good. So we'll see.
Well, I definitely won't mind listening to that. But yeah, maybe
I'll share some clips with you.
Yeah, I was even thinking
if you want to hear them.
Yeah, we could definitely set up like a now I'm thinking just set up a YouTube thing and get your stuff out there, because I'm not even sure how you get stuff out there anymore, and it's all the internet anymore.
Seems like it's all indie, unless you're a pop star.
Yeah.
But happy to share. Trying to think of. So after college, I think you moved up here for a little bit.
Yeah. I jumped around.
Because you were in Athens?
Yeah, I was in Athens that's right. You were in Athens. You were in Logan, and I was in Athens for a while.
Yeah.
And then,
And then I moved up to Pataskala, and then you were in were you in Pataskala too?
I eventually moved up to Columbus. I moved up to Columbus, and then I moved to... I'm brain farting. Gahanna, yeah. Gahanna, and then it's been a while. I can see the word. I can see. But and then Oxford, and then
Oxford. Yep.
And then you stayed up there. What's up with that? And then you.
I went to Dublin for a while, and then I came back to Pataskala. Now I'm in Canal.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, you're not on Pataskala anymore. That's crazy.
No.
So, but yeah.
No, it's been a journey.
So. Yes, it has. But yeah, I'm definitely interested in some of the music you put together. I want to hear
and I want to do some more songs for the channel too, because I've just done the one song, and that. It's one of those things where, I threw it together, and we could talk about it some other time. People are interested in what I used on it gear wise, but it only took about a week to put together, and I listened to it. And I'm like, it's kind of cool, but I could probably come up with something more interesting than that. So.
Well, I think it's cool, but if you want to do more to it, I'm game. I know Bobby was talking about doing something. I don't know if he was talking about just the main theme or a podcast thing, but I know
Bobby plays guitar, doesn't he?
You guys should work together. Yeah, he does guitar and bass.
Yeah, it'd be cool if you did a more guitar version of it, different take.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Yeah.
Yes, music for the channel. You see, I'm not a music guy at all. I'm like, ooh, that sounds nice. I like sounds.
Yeah, maybe we'll do a music discussion on another video. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's why I like having you guys in, especially if we're going to talk about the bands, because I'm like, this song is good because I like it.
Oh, I liked how this part was 3 decibels quieter than the other part. And then that, they took a break for 4 measures, and then it came. Yes. Yes. Very technical. Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of the history of myself and George, if you guys were ever wondering. We've been friends... Realistically, we've been friends for 22 years now?
Yeah,
Jesus,
I know.
I just realized that.
Jesus
oh, my
Christ.
God.
Yeah. Oh, my... but I'm hoping
I
that
don't know how I'm still 22. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like... It's just frozen in time.
Yeah.
I hope like this could be one of many discussions for these type of movies, because I'm almost positive, like back in those days, Bob, that we've talked about these specific movies and we even watched them together a couple of times, I feel like.
Oh, I'm certain. So, rolling straight into the movies, we're going to talk about, first off, Masters of the Universe. This is a much maligned movie in general. Like, everybody hates this movie. And I don't think I like it as much as you do, George. But I will say, like, especially upon this rewatch, this is fine. I enjoyed it. I think part of the reason why it's hated is because, like, if you want to call this is a bad adaptation of Masters of the Universe, I'll go ahead and say it. But as far as just movies, this is just like a cheesy sci-fi B movie, and it's
very enjoyable for what it is.
Yeah,
if you're able to if you can separate it, it's one of those films where people, I think, are more disappointed about what it could have been.
Yeah.
So if the show had never existed, the toy line had never existed, if this is what we knew of Masters of the Universe, would have been better received, maybe.
Potentially. I think, like, especially, like, it wouldn't even surprise me if this was rewritten from some other script, because it strikes me, you take the He-Man, Dolph Lundgren, you take him, you dress him up just like Matt Arms, and this could be, like, just an entertaining, just sci-fi adventure.
Sure.
Guys jumping around in space, take the names from it.
So just kind of a brief history. I'm not a fan of this series at all. I'm just kidding. So yeah, it was the toy line first, Mattel. I think it started to come out in '82. This would have been probably the height of the sword and sorcery genre that was becoming popular in the late '70s. But I think '82 was the first Conan movie. Does that sound right, Bob?
That sounds right.
Yeah, so there were a lot of things happening for that genre, and it was very popular. So that toy line came out, mixing like that with sci-fi elements, because Star Wars was big around that time too. So yeah, there were the toys, and then the toys came with little mini comics because they didn't have any other material other than that kids could have adventures for. So they wrote the little mini comics that came with the figures, and then the Filmation show came a little later. So yeah, the movie came out, and of course there wasn't really CGI or any way to do some of the characters as seen in the show. So there's no Orko, there was no Battle Cat. I think He-Man, the Prince Adam transforming into He-Man, I think, was added for the Filmation show, the cartoon. So, but a lot of people complain that, it was like He-Man never Adam. He was just always He-Man.
Yeah.
So I think there was a lot of flack for this because a lot of people were comparing it to TV show. But honestly, like, I didn't see this in theaters. Did you see this in theaters?
Yes, actually.
Okay, cool.
I barely remember it because I was pretty young then. But yes, I remember going to I think we did a drive-in theater to watch it.
Oh,
it
cool.
Seems familiar.
Yeah, that would be fun to see the drive-in.
Yeah.
So my grandfather taped it off of Showtime when it first aired on TV. So, I mean, by that time, the show was already out of syndication. Like, it wasn't running past this point. So, like, I kind of vaguely remember the show when I was little, but I think I remember the toys more.
Yeah, I definitely remember the toys more. I had lots of those toys.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I've been kind of collecting them here and there. So this is really what I knew. It's like, and Bob, you can attest to this, is back in those days, you had what you had on video. And when you're a kid, you don't have a ton of videos. You just watch the same 10 or 15 tapes you have over and over and over again. And that was one of them. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I must have had it on video, but I know for me, like the tapes I burned out, it'd be like Back to the Future, Karate Kid, Ghostbusters, Raiders of the Lost Ark. Oh God, Raiders of the Lost Ark. Yeah, that got burned out.
Yeah,
but
just going off topic, I think like say we had this one, we had the first Ninja Turtles movie, which could be another fun one to discuss someday because I really like that movie.
Yeah.
The first Batman, we had, of course, Star Wars and Indiana Jones and all those. So, yeah, we just wore those. Never wore them out, but we watched them a ton. Like a ton.
Yeah.
So.
And it off topic again, it's weird going back and looking at VHSs now because it's like, oh my God, this looks awful. We watched this.
Well, that's what you didn't. I mean, there's nothing to compare it to back then. It's just
exactly
what
when there's
you
nothing
had.
to compare it to. It's like, ooh, hey, we can take the movie home. And now you look at it, it's like, my God, look at all that interference. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Did they point a camera at the theater screen and record? What'd they do with this?
So,
but yeah, yeah, like I was already saying, I did enjoy this movie. It's not perfect, but I like. In fact, I'll go ahead and tell you my biggest gripe about this movie. So, obviously, you have your main Eternian characters. You have He-Man, you have Man-at-Arms, you have Teela, and you have Gwildor, who I always felt like was an Orko stand-in.
He was the Orko replacement. Yeah.
Yeah. Instead of having somebody flying around with no mouth, you have a dwarf played by Billy Barty, who honestly, I also want to say, I think all the actors here do a good job. I think Dolph Lundgren's probably the weakest actor of the bunch, and I feel like he's trying, but he's not given strong enough direction to really work with.
Interesting. I thought he was fine.
No, he's fine. He's fine. I don't want to say he's bad. I think he's the weakest, though. But yeah.
Even in the show, like He-Man always kind of had the Superman kind of personality where he definitely seems flatter than his friends. Like the friends have more of a dynamic personality, and he's just kind of. No, I thought he was totally fine.
Oh yeah. Well, I do want to talk about Frank Langella because he almost comes from the other end. He chews scenery in this movie so much, and it's kind of just wonderful whenever he's on screen. He's having fun.
You know, when you're a kid, you don't really think about it, but rewatching it as an adult, it's like, wow, that was a great performance. And I think that was one of his kids was really big into Masters of the Universe, and that's why he took the role, because he there's a documentary out there on it's on Netflix, and I think it's hold on, I'm brain farting. The Toys That Made Us.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've seen ads for that. I have not watched any of those episodes yet.
Really good. Yeah, they went through and they talk about the toy line, but they also talked about the show and the movie. And I think that's where I heard that from, was from that show.
But yeah, I was just gonna say, we didn't get to the big story point that I really like. Here's the deal: it's a big story point, but only comes in at the end. So you have the Eternia characters go to Earth, and they meet some human characters. They meet Courteney Cox and Tom Paris. Yeah.
Okay, so can we stop there for a minute?
Sure.
When you watch the movie, okay, so they use the cosmic key. They go punch in an address at random, and they end up at Earth. Okay, so they go through Earth, and then they cut to the scene of her working in the fast food, the chicken place.
Yeah, not.
And as soon as they
KFC.
cut to that scene, I'm like, okay, it's so jarring because it almost feels like you're not watching the same movie because you have that scene where she's talking to her coworker, and it wasn't gently transitioned. It was just like bam, and now we're here, and like it's very jarring. So.
Yeah, I don't recall how well they set that up. Now it kind of makes me want to go back and say, was there at least a line saying, "Hey, we don't know where we'll end up," and then you cut to that? It does seem like you'd probably have something, but I don't remember. They might have just cut to that, which would be crazy.
I think it was just a cut. There wasn't a transition or anything like that. They land.
That would be jarring. That one.
I think it's right after the scene where Gwildor is playing with the cow.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
I think.
But yes, you're right. I think that it is kind of weird. Well, they travel to Earth, and Courteney Cox's character is set up with a character arc because her parents recently died, and she blames herself for it. And the clear character arc is that she has to learn not to blame herself for it. The accidents happened, and it wasn't her fault, and she can't be laying the blame on herself.
Well, and she had a good support system too, and she's like, "Oh, I'm moving away," and it's like Kevin loves her. It's like, "I'm moving. I'm leaving you behind," and it's like, "Whoa, you're going a little too far here."
Yeah, it's a bit much. Now that the clear arc is her to learn and move and figure out her life after this. But what the movie ends up going with is a thing where she goes back in time and actually does prevent her parents' death, which is... Oh, it doesn't sit right with me at all.
Yeah, spoilers. Yeah, so at the very end, of the movie, they go back to Earth, Kevin and Julie. And, Gwildor offers to send them back to any in history. And they're like, no, we just want to go home. They go through the portal, and then she turns around. She's like, no, send us back. And Gwildor sends them back to the time before the parents' death.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really strikes me as a wasted arc there. Of course, they didn't really set up throughout the movie, which a lot of this movie feels a bit haphazard, which is why I'm kind of shocked that it turns out as entertaining as it does.
Yeah, no, it's very entertaining. Yeah.
Oh, another actor... The actor who plays all the same roles, I don't know his name, but I think he played Ludwig here. But it's the same. It's the guy from Top Gun, Back to the Future. He always plays that role.
Lubick. And I need to look that up real quick because I can never remember his name either.
He's if you've watched like 80s movies, you know who this guy is.
Yes, James Tolkin.
Yes, that's him. Yeah. You're a slacker, McFly.
He was never, ever typecasted.
No. But, he's typecast here, but he's great here, too. So he's...
Yeah, no, definitely.
Courteney Cox and Tom Paris do a good job. I like Man-at-Arms. I like Tila. Billy Barty does a good job. I like the acting here is fairly good.
And fun fact... I know Courteney Cox went on to do Friends. I never got into Friends, but I read it in the trivia section here. So the sorceress is played by Christina Pickles, who also plays in Friends as her mom.
Oh God, I did not know that.
I did not know that either. I learned that today, which is kind of a cool thing. Also a shout out to Meg Foster, who played a really good Evil Lynn.
Meg Foster is one of those actresses from the 80s that I don't think gets talked about enough because she's always great. She almost always plays a bad guy, but she's always great.
And it's her eyes too. Like you've seen They Live, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's just her eyes. They're like that's her natural eye color. They're just like piercing like eyes, yeah. But no, yeah, like like all the actors did a really good job. I also really like the costuming in this. The only costume that I felt was maybe a little lacking was Tila's.
Yeah, I was about ready to say, I think Tila and Man at Arms, it's
Man
fine,
at Arms
but...
was on point. They didn't really change up his costume too much, but Tila had more of an elaborate costume, especially with the snake armor and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But here it's just, your typical sci-fi onesie.
Well, and then I feel like the He-Man costume kind of feels like almost like leftovers from the other movies, and there's not that much because it's He-Man.
He does have the harness thing going on.
Yes.
Yes.
But I do want to mention, like,
we'll talk about that during another video.
There are costumes, like, there's all these alien minions of Skeletor. Like, obviously, you get Beastman, who might be my least favorite of those alien looks. Although Blade is just a dude. But there's like two other aliens that look really good. Really. Yeah.
The Beastman is an original villain, which they did a good job with. The other three, was it three or other two? No, there was Sarad. I think there are
three, but Skeletor kills one of them when they fail.
Right. Yeah. So the other three were new to the movie, but they did issue toys, and they appeared later in other Masters of the Universe cartoons. But the movie was their first appearance. But they were good characters. They were better or more affordable characters than, say, like Triclops or Trapjaw or something that would have been more expensive to adapt from the show. So I guess that's why another reason people dislike the show dislike the movie, because there's not a lot of secondary characters that we're able to translate to this.
The budget of the movie does show in a couple ways. Like Eternia you get one exterior shot of Castle Grayskull, and it is the most obvious painting you've ever seen in your life.
Oh yeah,
outside of Eternia is all desert. It's all California desert.
And I feel like that was a bit of a Star Wars influence. And is it fair to say that this has a more of a Star Wars influence than like Sword and Sorcery for this movie?
I don't know. Every sci-fi movie in the 80s owes something to Star Wars, without a doubt.
I felt like even the music was the music's really good, by the way. But it does feel very like they were going with a John Williams type style.
Well, speaking of that, I just remember when I put this on recently, because I've seen it a lot when I was younger, but it's probably been at least a good 10 years since I popped this on and watched it. The opening credits really seem like a cheap Superman.
Agreed. I've always thought it was Superman.
Yeah, it was Superman
inspired,
but budget Superman.
Yeah. With the 3D words
they're
that
really
kind of fly in and out of the screen.
They're not quite sure how to get it, so blah.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And then you see Eternia is just kind of this barren wasteland, which is boring. They do have a little set up for Gwildor's cave, which isn't bad. I love the little joke where he has all these high-tech locks, and then he does that little dinky chain thing. I thought that was funny.
Oh yeah, that was clever.
But yeah, I guess we should go over the story briefly. Gwildor's. The beginning of the movie is Skeletor essentially taking over Castle Grayskull and winning. And you find out he's done this because he stole Gwildor's invention, which is a cosmic key, which will take you anywhere. And apparently there's two, because Skeletor has one and Gwildor has one. And they end up essentially using the cosmic key to try to go to Castle Grayskull and free the Empress and do all the good stuff. Or Empress, or is it Sorceress? It's Sorceress.
Sorceress. Yes.
But then that fails, so they use the cosmic key and just get out of there, and they end up going to Earth, of course, because budget.
Yep.
And essentially the rest of the movie takes place on Earth with Skeletor sending his minions there. I guess not the rest, but pretty much all of Act 2 is going to be on Earth. And yeah, it's just kind of a fun sci-fi movie. I don't have much to say other than it's fun. Oh yeah, I want to bring up, of course it's 80s, so the way the Cosmic Key works is through synthesizer music, which is pretty much said explicitly through the movie. And
it does make cool sounds. Like, I've always thought the Cosmic Key was a very cool looking and sounding device. Is it?
Yes, a lot. The sound effects they use for it, like you have Tom Paris playing on the Cosmic Key because he thinks it's like a cool synthesizer.
You know what?
And the sounds he's making, is a cool synthesizer.
And I never noticed it, but it has those kind of like sharp looking fork looking things on it. They're tuning forks.
Oh God, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, of course
it just now occurred to me. It's like it's making music. It's weird that it has little fork things on. Those are probably tuning forks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or something that would help generate a sound or match up a sound.
Yeah, for sure.
I never thought about that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I didn't even think about that either. But yeah, that's a good catch. Yeah, of course. In the 80s, synthesizer music is all you need in life.
As I gotten older and started playing keyboards, I'm noticing, I know what that keyboard is, because they have the music store, no product placement whatsoever, but it's filled with signature guitars and keyboards and things like that. And I think they even have some shop signs for like Korg and Gibson and things like that.
I'm sure you see a Korg somewhere.
It's just kind of like, but no. Also, I really liked the Castle Grayskull interior designs.
Yeah, there's that one huge. I think there's only one huge set they use, and they use the crap out of it, which obviously they would. That being said, it's not a bad set.
Yeah,
when they actually built sets for this, it was decent. They only really have two I can think of, unless the Earth stuff. The Earth stuff's probably like on location, modified mostly.
Yeah, I maybe some of the scenes in the gym where they're doing the firework and stuff was probably a set or a soundstage.
The gym and the music shop might have been a stage of some sort. Or it might have been like it might have just been like an empty warehouse they're able to get a hold of or something. Right. Because they do some damage to those sets. Well, of course, outside the gym, there's that box room, of course, which all cheap movies have a box room.
Oh, the empty boxes. They're swinging the boxes around.
You're throwing an empty box at me.
They're just getting ready for recycling week, and they just happen to have empty boxes laying around.
I like, when I have empty boxes, I like to fold them into the big box shape so they take up the most amount of room and just stack them up. That's how I roll.
So yeah, very entertaining. I'm trying to.
Yeah, it's not the perfect movie at all, but like it's fun. Listen, I would say this: if you're going into this like, hey, I want a cool Master of the Universe movie, you're gonna watch this. You're gonna be like, oh, this doesn't work. But if you just go into this looking for like a cheesy B sci-fi movie, you're gonna have a lot of fun. I think there's a lot of fun to be had here. If nothing else, you gotta watch Frank Langella's performance. He is chewing scenery as Skeletor, and it's delightful.
I think he came up with some of his own dialogue too for that.
Oh, it wouldn't surprise me if he was just saying stuff and they're like, yeah, do it.
Yeah, because I mean, like, you look back on the show and, the Skeletor on the show is very much kind of like, almost like the Joker. He's very like, the cheesy, high-pitched voice and making puns and just comic book. But here, like, is it Frank Langella? How do you pronounce his last name? It's more of like, he's more of like he has like a human element to him. And yet some of the conversations, a couple things really struck me from his performances. The line where he said, like, tell me about loneliness, He-Man. Is the loneliness of good equal to the loneliness of evil? And I'm like, that's pretty, like, you wouldn't expect to see that in a kid's show, that kind of dialogue.
Yeah, for sure.
So they're trying to make it seem like they're equals. They're not like, it's not you're a bad guy. It's like, well, we both are kind of like the same person or the same type of person, but we just are on different sides of the fence, kind of.
Yeah, potentially. I'm not sure how much that worked for me, but I don't know. I just love his over the top stuff. But you are right. It's actually, then you brought it up, and now I'm like, yeah, he's actually more over the top in the cartoon.
Yeah.
Like, no matter how much he chews the scenery here, I don't think he can reach that cartoon Skeletor who was just like intense.
Well, like another thing with Frank's performance, that like always, like, he had a lot of nonverbal performances too that were very different. Like when they're whipping He-Man with the electric whip, like he's just kind of sitting in the chair and he's hiding behind his staff watching. And, he's like, every time the whip cracks, you can see him like shake. And eventually he says, he's like, no, that's enough. You need to stop. Stop. So it's like he has these human elements to him where like the cartoon Skeletor, is just over the top and, you know. So, yeah.
Oh, for sure.
So props.
I don't... Like, it's been a while since I watched cartoon, but one thing I remember is that Skeletor is just a bit intense.
Yeah.
And not like scary intense, just, oh my God. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Just stop.
Great performance there, for sure.
Yeah. Absolutely check this movie out. If you're just looking for a fun, cheesy, low-budget sci-fi movie, this is gonna be right up your alley. I've seen lots of bad movies, and I'm gonna tell you, this is not one of them. No.
Yeah, and I think, like, what does IMDb have this rated? Like a 5.3. I think that's a little...
Oh, that's a good question. 5.3 does seem pretty low.
I would give this...
Although, honestly,
I would give
it wouldn't
this
surprise
movie...
me.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I don't know. I was about ready to say with fans on there, it wouldn't surprise me if this is even lower than 5.3. I know, like, we talked about Dr. Mordred a couple weeks ago, which is like an off-brand Doctor Strange movie. And yeah, I definitely thought this was way more entertaining than that. And for some reason, my IMDb doesn't want to load my search. So that's cool. That's cool.
I'd give this like a solid, like, 6.5.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable. 6.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd quite give it a 7. Maybe. I don't know. It's entertaining.
Yeah, it's very entertaining.
Like I said, if you're looking for B-movie fun, this is it.
Yeah, and it's a delight. The visuals are really nice. The music is excellent. The design that has a good flow to it. It doesn't seem like there's weird pacing or, minus that one jarring transition, like I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
It's, no, it's a fun flick. This is one that I think I put on every few years.
Well, everybody, will attack this. Oh, they're just going to Earth for the low budget thing. And yeah, they are. And it's like, but that doesn't automatically mean bad. I mean, that was the plot of Star Trek 4. And Star Trek 4 is a good one, everybody agrees. So, just going to Earth to save money is not automatically bad, people.
Well, and it's, even in the cartoon show had more sorcery, more magical elements. And they were
for sure.
They were able, like, Orko could make portals and they could jump between Eternia. And I think Etheria is She-Ra's planet, that she went to a different planet and they could jump back and forth to different areas, different planets, and think not so much time, but they could.
Yeah.
So it's not too far-fetched.
That seems familiar, yeah.
So
Yeah.
And I think they were planning on having She-Ra in this movie, but that never made it past the design stage.
Yeah. Well, I think there's probably a lot of ideas they want to do for this movie, but yeah, they definitely hit budget issues.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was a flop. Because I think at this point, 87, like, it was the hype for the franchise was starting to die down a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So they never really made a second one.
Yeah. And this is actually one of the very first post-credit scenes is this movie.
You're right. And you're right.
Marvel used them all the time now, but before Master of the Universe, they were kind of unheard of. So it started the trend.
I can't think of an earlier example. I mean, I'm sure there had to have been some, but
there probably is, but yeah.
But
there's only like a handful before Marvel. Yeah.
I mean, I can't think of one that I've seen prior to this. So
I think there has to be, but yeah. I can't think of an earlier one than this.
I gotta
Tell
Google
us in the comments how wrong we are and all the post-credit scenes we're missing. But yeah, so are we ready to talk about Labyrinth, or is there anything you think you want to add?
I was just going to... Oh, here we go. The first film to feature a post-credit scene is The Silencers from 1966.
I totally have seen that for sure.
Yeah. Another one was Young Sherlock Holmes from 85.
You showed that to me in college. I'm pretty sure I saw that with you.
Yeah. And then they mentioned Masters of the Universe. So yeah, it was definitely a big one for starting the trend. Yeah.
Oh yeah. But yeah,
let's talk about Labyrinth.
Okay. So you might be thinking, underrated movies, Labyrinth? Doesn't everybody love Labyrinth? And my answer would be, I know somebody who didn't love Labyrinth. And that'd be someone, well, it's Roger Ebert. Roger Ebert gave this a 2-star review. Which
I'm going to give
his
review two thumbs down for that review.
I would have to give it 2 thumbs down too. It's like, dude, what movie were you watching? This movie is awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, we were just talking about like the limits of Masters of the Universe sets. This movie's kind of jarring in comparison because these sets are all over the place and they all have their own like look, and this is a crazy world that Jim Henson set up here. All for David Bowie to play in.
Yeah. So let's start with Bowie. So for a lot of kids, when did you see this, Bob?
I want to say I probably saw it when it came out on VHS. I don't remember seeing it in the theater.
I didn't either, but I'm pretty sure I saw it on VHS. So yeah, that would have been the following year. So, Bowie. That was like my first exposure to Bowie.
It's almost certainly my first exposure to Bowie too, and I think even like watching not post credit, but like behind the scenes, which I must have seen when I was younger. I remember them talk about Bowie, and I was like, "Who's Bowie? I don't know who Bowie is." I don't know. Yeah.
But, for us when we were kids, when this came out, we were probably like 6 or so watching it. It's like, we weren't familiar with Bowie prior to this. So for us, we were just watching, the movie as it was, there wasn't any like expectations like, wonder if Bowie's songs are going to be any good, or why is Bowie now acting? Why are they casting Bowie in this?
And also like that weird time when you look at your parents and you ask them, "Hey, what's a love injection?"
Yeah.
Oh, Bowie.
Yeah. So
yeah,
I know this was Jim Henson did all the puppetry, but I think unlike Dark Crystal, because this was a Lucasfilm too, like Industrial Light and Magic worked on this one. I think Lucas had an executive.
Yeah,
credit?
I'm actually looking at the poster right now. Yeah, it's executive producer George Lucas, directed by Jim Henson. Yeah, those are the only credits on there besides Bowie and Conley.
Yeah, and I think it was.
I guess
George...
Conley.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say Conley's on there probably because her role is so big, but I believe this is like, isn't this like her first role, or at least her? Oh, definitely her first big role.
I think it's her first big role. I feel like she's done at least small things before this. I love the power of the internet, where I can just kind of like, look things up so I can pretend like I know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Yes, I know. I didn't Google that. What the fuck are you talking about?
Her first gig was she was underground cult member in Duran Duran's Union of the Snake, the music video.
Holy shit, I've seen that. I don't remember her in that. That's had to be a blink and you miss it role.
Yeah.
Fun fact, Duran Duran has awesome music videos.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Duran Duran is awesome, and I have no shame in saying that. I legitimately do really like them.
Oh, no, I'm all for Duran Duran here.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think Lucas had the idea. It's like, okay, the Goblin King, we should cast, a well-known rock star. And I don't know if, like Iggy Pop was considered, and you mentioned Sting, but I think Dune was out at that point, and they didn't want to reuse somebody who had already done like a music/film crossover.
God, it wasn't that long ago when I watched that movie because that new one came out, and I'm not gonna lie, I totally blinked that he was in it. That movie's a bit of a slog. It's a bit of a chore.
The original Dune?
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. I do like
the new one.
The new one was really good, and I enjoyed the original, but you're right. It's a very slow paced movie. I forgot what was I looking up. Labyrinth trivia. And I watched The Dark Crystal the other day. My brother came and stayed with us, and he had never seen it, so we watched Dark Crystal. And I feel like Labyrinth's a little more timeless with the visuals and the pacing and
all the puppets and stuff, they're so good here. The fact when you see David Bowie playing with that ball thing where he's waving his hands, and you actually have a guy standing behind him to do that, to make that look convincing.
Yeah, so you have seen
So
you have seen that documentary at least.
Oh yeah. And the guy talks about how much harder it is to do it behind David Bowie's back.
Yeah.
It looks great though.
No, it does. It really does.
It looks like David Bowie's actually playing with his balls. Wait a minute.
Oh, yeah. Wait. Okay, so I'll take over the story one here.
Ooh, okay.
So it kind of has a Wizard of Oz kind of formula where it's implied that it could be in her head, like she's just totally batshit crazy and like she went inside her own head. Because there's things around her room like characters that you see in the story are characters she has on her shelf, or they're on a book. If you pay attention to what's around her room, you'll see references to things that she encounters in the movie. So. Oh,
and you want to know one thing I noticed that I don't think I ever noticed before? That I saw the newspaper clippings, and it looks like I didn't even think about before, but watching it this time, it looks like newspaper clippings for the accolades for her mother as an actress. It's like, oh my God, I never put that together before.
I never noticed that. Interesting.
Yeah. Because she has a dad and a stepmom here, and I kind of assumed her mother died at some point, but like they don't like focus on that at all.
Well, you're right, because there's the stepmom, so you never knew what really happened with the mom. And they didn't really talk about it either. It was just your your typical, new stepmom, teenager isn't happy kind of thing.
Yeah, but there's this scrapbook, and you see newspaper clippings about this woman actress, and you see like a couple about this same actress, and it's like, I bet you that's supposed to be her biological mom. It's like,
I'm gonna have to rewatch that now.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
It's like after you see, like, when they do the first pass through of her room, you see where the wild things are, and then you see like the couple of stuffed animals. You see a labyrinth, and I think the newspaper clippings are right after the labyrinth game.
Yeah, she had the Labyrinth board game in there.
Yeah,
not the board game based on the movie, but there's this old wooden game called Labyrinth. Yeah. It's a box, and it's a marble that you tilt the board, kind of like a maze, trying to get the marble to the end without it dropping into any of the holes of the board.
Yeah, and hers is way fancier than mine ever was.
Yeah, I know you had it because we played it a couple of times.
Yeah, I think it might be up. That's why I was looking up there. I was like, can I grab it quickly? I don't. Probably not. Probably not.
So, though none of the human characters partake in the actual story. The dog. Her dog is Ambrosius.
Oh, Ambrosius was Oh yeah,
Sir Didius rides him. Yeah, that's her. Yeah, that's the same dog.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, for sure. Yeah.
So, yeah, spoilers if you haven't seen the movie but want to know what it's about. She has to babysit her baby brother. She's jealous because the baby gets all the attention. The baby isn't cooperating, going to sleep. So she calls the Goblin King from her book, the Labyrinth book that she has, because she has a fantasy of doing dress up and living out, stories. The Goblin King appears to take the little brother away. She said she didn't really mean it, but he then challenges her with the quest that she solves the labyrinth, she can rescue her little brother and take her home. So interesting kind of, usually with like these, your hero's quest stories, it's usually the male rescuing the princess in distress. But here it's, a strong female character rescuing, a baby, her brother.
I didn't even think about that, but yeah, totally.
Yeah, and yeah, Bowie would be the dragon waiting at the center. She encounters, like every classic story, she encounters a group that helps her. There's Hoggle, Ludo, the big beast, and then Sir Didymus.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, she goes through the different, and it's not all mazes. You think it was just a big maze, but there's ins and outs. There's different
puzzles.
Areas. Yeah, they're like solving a puzzle to get out of. And then it has all there's a musical element that goes along with it, which were the songs by Bowie, and they're actually really good songs. And as far as Bowie goes, they're pretty solid songs.
Yeah, Bowie's a great artist, and these are great songs. They kind of go right in line with his classic stuff, honestly.
Yeah.
And then there's also the score by Trevor Jones, which bleeds fairly seamlessly with the Bowie stuff, I always felt.
Yeah.
Maybe just because I grew up with it, but I always felt like sonically they worked together really well.
A couple of the songs I think they collaborated on, and that's kind of how they were able to mesh them.
At least one. Yeah. I think Underground, there's a version where they're like, both their versions of the songs are like meshed together, and it works.
Yeah, totally. And yeah, as I mentioned earlier, I think it was done by ILM with Jim Henson.
I think so too.
Yeah, because I mean, it's like the special effects here, I think, are too good to not have been ILM.
Yeah, for sure. Just all the effects work in this not even for the time, even for now, like the puppeteering work and stuff, that still looks amazing today.
Yeah, the sets, the way they blend with the matte paintings. The matte paintings aren't obvious or anything. Maybe a couple of shots.
I was about to say the one scene that doesn't hold up particularly well is the Chili Down scene. Those guys look so superimposed anymore.
The blue screen work is a little rough there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Usually it's pretty good here, but yeah, there it's like, ooh.
But it's, I mean, I think, kids still really get into it. Actually my niece. This is actually her all-time favorite movie. Is this movie?
Oh, I did not know that. But my I was telling I actually got my son to watch both the movies we watched this week. I got him to sit down and watch them with me.
Oh, yeah?
Like this one, I didn't even have to hype up for him because this one I had to wait to watch on Saturday because that's when I picked up the copy. And I didn't even have to hype it up for him. I plugged in, he's playing with his toys, and all of a sudden he's sitting down watching it. It's like, so he must
which one did
like
he
it.
enjoy more? Did he this one compare to Masters of the Universe?
I think he must have enjoyed this one more, because I did like Masters of the Universe. I was like, hey, do you want to watch this? Like, okay, sure. And I showed him a little bit of the cartoon before we watched it. And then this one, I didn't even hype up for him. I was just like, I'm going to plug it in. And he's like, okay, he's playing with his toys. Then he stopped playing with his toys and watched it.
Yeah. I think that's
usually
awesome.
A good sign of kids.
That's awesome when you have, sometimes like, I remember my dad and my grandpa, wanted to share some of their movies. I mean, of course, there's a big shift now because, when Color first came out, anything that was black and white seemed like it was eons ago, even if it was only like 40 or 50 years ago. So there's that. But I feel like the 80s and why some of these movies hold up really well today, it was really like the start of like modern kind of cinema, like cinematography, like I feel like special effects, not all 80s movies. Some definitely were ahead of the game, than others, but it was, still, it was believable for the time, and looking back on it, a lot of the special effects still kind of hold up, and maybe that's the reason why kids still really get into some of these movies today.
Yeah, for sure.
So.
Yeah, well, I think I miss Muppets. I would like to see more Muppets and stuff. I think the last time we seriously, well, I guess there was that Dark Crystal series, which I actually wanted to watch. But my eldest didn't get as much into it, and I wanted to watch it with them.
Yeah, it's good.
It looked good. I really liked the first episode, and I want to also stress, Dark Crystal is one of those movies I never really got into, but I always thought it was an interesting world, and I kind of felt like the first episode was like, here we're gonna explore the world, and I'm like, yes, more of that. I mean,
yeah.
Now. I brought up Roger Ebert earlier, and I do want to stress, Roger Ebert's one of those guys. Like, I think everybody does any sort of film critique, like on the internet at all, you owe something to Roger Ebert. I just want to state that straight up. Like, Roger Ebert and Gene Siskel kind of made the idea of, like, doing, like, video forms of reviews. They made that a thing. And
I generally agree with most of his reviews, but this is one that I don't so much agree with, but most of the other ones that I've read of his from movies that I liked, I pretty much agree with them, or movies that I dislike.
Yeah. I usually agree with him. Not always, but I usually agree with him. But yeah, he talks about on here how like the effects are impressive, but he didn't like how essentially it all ended up being like kind of a dream. Which, spoiler, it kind of is.
It's like Wizard of Oz. It's up to you to decide if. Well, I mean, they do at the very end. The characters appear to her at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
And then Bowie's kind of watching from a distance and then flies away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is it a dream? Yeah. Is it? Is it not?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. This is definitely a type of story where it's like, the journey is way more important than the destination, because the journey is just fun in this movie. But also, it's a lot about, like, Sarah learning. Because the beginning of this movie, Sarah's pretty insufferable. She is, like... I mean, she's, like... I don't know, I don't want to say she's, like, the worst teenager, because, I mean, she's gonna babysit her little brother. That's pretty cool for a teenager. But, like, she is, like, really, like, freaking out over it, and it's like, oh my god, relax, you're gonna be okay.
Well, yeah.
But like, it's kind of her learning, you know, what's important in life, and it's a nice story, honestly. So I like he has that complaint, and I don't really think that holds water. So I would disagree with that. And then the other complaint is that it doesn't have a strong plot line, which, okay, I don't know. I'm kind of fine with it. I'm kind of,
yeah.
I'm not sure what he's looking for.
I mean, like the plot isn't like entirely all original. It's really like the world that plot takes place in that makes it interesting. But you know, not every movie has to be like, you know, has to have a plot that takes you by surprise or something that you've never seen before, you know. Sometimes it's kind of how you change up, you know, just the world that things take place in. It's like I brought up, this movie is totally about the journey. It's not about the destination. If you're just watching thinking, oh my god, she's got to get to Toby, oh my god, she's got to get to Toby. If you're just watching with that mindset, I could see how this could drive you nuts. But this is about an adventure in a labyrinth with Muppets. That's awesome. Yeah, and it's not like what you would expect too from Jim Henson either. Like usually you think Muppets and you go, okay, yeah, I know stuff Dark Crystal and things like that, but it's completely the design of the puppets here are, you know, very unique. There hasn't been anything that, you know, Jim Henson has done like this outside of this movie.
Well, also like the introduction of Hoggle. You literally are introduced to him while he's taking a piss.
And he's spraying the fairies, and the fairies are beautiful.
Yeah.
When she picks one up and it bites her and she drops it, like, ow, I didn't expect that. It's like, yeah, well, that's how fairies are. It's why I'm sitting there with the bugs spray.
Yeah. Essentially, seems like fairies are like mosquitoes in this universe. It's like, oh goddamn, these things suck. No, it's I like what this movie does. But yeah, I do not agree with his review here. It's weird. I don't have strong, like, oh, how dare you. He doesn't like how there are scenes where there's a fake head used for Toby, where I'm like...
A fake head?
Okay. Yeah.
What do you mean?
Where it's like a fake baby, and I'm like, okay.
I don't remember seeing that.
It says one of the key characters since...
Is it when he's being like tossed up and down during the
I'm not sure.
Huh.
One of the key characters in this film is Toby, played by Toby Frond. Frond is a midget who has been given a Muppet head to wear, and although the head is a good special effect construction, I kept wanting to see real eyes, real expression, and effects didn't add up.
I
thought Toby was a little kid.
I don't recall that shot. Or any shots that.
Listen. I always thought Toby was a little kid. If Toby is actually just like a midget and that's a fake head, in like a lot of those shots, I'm gonna say that's impressive. But I don't think it is. I think he might be wrong, honestly. I mean,
there's
let me look.
Scenes. There's a couple of scenes, like, you know, the dance scene where Bowie's kind of like tossing him up in the air, and then
well, you can tell, like in the close-ups, he's doing like the careful tossing you do with actual kids, and then in the far off shot, he does the huge toss when it's obviously like a doll.
and trying to think later in the movie when they're in the room with all the stairs going all directions, I felt like no, but he didn't really move a lot in that scene.
Toby Frond was 2 when this was filmed.
Yeah, he was.
I think Ebert's
not
wrong.
quite.
I mean,
not quite a toddler. Yeah,
he might have been 2 or 3. So like, I think Ebert's wrong. I think he's just a little kid. I mean,
this is another one of those movies that, you know, we had on VHS at home and watched it over and over and over again. It's one of those, like, you've seen a movie so many times, you know, like every single beat of every scene. And like, there's nothing that occurs to me that matches up with what he's talking about. I can't.
Yeah,
I can't think
like
of
a
that.
fake
I can't
head.
think of that shot.
I think that's just
Yeah.
a regular head, and yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. So, like he's younger than we are.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's just a little kid. I don't think that's a midget with a fake head. And if it is a midget with a fake head, God, that's a convincing looking fake head.
I'm gonna look
what he's
for it
talking
now.
about. Yeah.
And like, is it actually there, or is
think it
Ebert
is.
just making up shit because he didn't like the movie?
Maybe, yeah. It strikes me as a weird complaint because it's like, dude, if that's fake, that looks great, but I don't think it's fake. I don't.
I think like what you mentioned earlier, the only shot in the movie that just absolutely does not hold up is just the blue screen work with the fire gang.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does not.
Which you know.
I mean, the close-ups are fine, but when they have like the wide shots and you see the group of them dancing and she's kind of in the middle of them, it's like the blue screen work is.
They look like they're cut out and pasted on there. It's not good.
And I've noticed that too, even with like when they put Star Wars and Indiana Jones out on like DVD, like. I think it's a little more noticeable when you're watching something in a better definition than watching something on VHS.
Well, it's Bobby and I encountered this last week when we talked about Jurassic Park. Like the puppeteering work in Jurassic Park looks amazing, but in 4K, the CGI actually starts to show a little bit, and it's like, oh my god, I've never noticed the CGI before.
The scenes where they use both, it's actually really well done, but the only CGI shot that really bugs me is at the beginning of the movie with the brontosauruses. I'm like,
yes,
yeah, but that's the worst of it. Once you get past that scene in the movie, the rest of it's totally fine, and it's actually, I consider that movie one of those milestone special effects movies.
Oh, it absolutely is.
Yeah.
That movie's great. But yeah, so is Labyrinth. But yeah, a good movie. If you've not seen Labyrinth, I think most people have seen Labyrinth, although there may be people who haven't. If you haven't seen Labyrinth, don't worry about anything we've told you. This movie's an experience. Like I said, this movie's about the journey. It's not about the end. So, like, knowing the story, like, does it matter if we told you she gets her brother at the end? Because, like, it'd be fucked up if she didn't, right? This is not that type of movie.
Yeah, and this is a movie too. Like it's a good family movie. You can watch this with your kids. You can watch it with your grandma. It's a very, very entertaining, family movie.
Yeah, and one thing I did want to bring up, though I think we're pretty much done, but I did want to bring it up that David Bowie, I will always regret this because he was always one of those concerts I always wanted to go to, and now he's gone. Now, I remember when he passed, it's like, oh, fuck.
I know. It was one of those where I'm like, I remember that day. I'm like,
yeah, that's a rough one. He was definitely one of those musical artists where I was like, and like Freddie Mercury might have been bigger, but I wasn't really listening to Queen when he passed. I was definitely listening to Bowie when he passed, and I was just like, oh,
yeah, and shit. It's for a lot of us. Were kids when this came out, like a good chunk of us probably started listening to Bowie because of this movie.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
I wasn't like listening to his entire catalog when I was 6 years old, but there was as we got into the 90s, he had a lot of songs that I really liked, and
I probably should just sit down and listen to his entire catalog at some point. I know I haven't. I have like a half dozen or so albums.
Yeah, it varies. It's like he has some albums that are really, 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 really solid, and others that are, well known for a couple of songs, and but they're all good. They're definitely all good.
Yeah, like I was about ready to say, like I don't love all his albums, but like I appreciate all his albums, if that makes sense. Because even the ones where I'm not as thrilled with him, I'm like, I appreciate what he's trying to do, because he's always like experimenting. Okay, 26 studio albums. That's interesting.
Yeah, he did 3 albums with Brian Eno, and they're famously known as the Berlin trilogy. Right. But they had kind of like the prototype for what like synth rock was going to start becoming. And they had a lot of...
Okay, now you've got me interested. Which ones are those?
It's Lodger, Low, and Heroes. And of course, everyone knows the Hero song. But those albums also have a lot of instrumental stuff, kind of like soundtrack kind of sounding pieces, which are really cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, I highly recommend those. And I think he did some stuff with Eno in the 90s when he was doing like some of the more like industrial kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Well, Eno's another guy where I don't like everything he does, but I always appreciate everything he does.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Like I wasn't like Brian Eno was what made like rock the first couple Roxy Music albums kind of like but when he started doing like the ambient stuff, it was really cool.
Yeah. Like it was interesting when he was part of Roxy Music because it was it's like you could definitely feel his influence. Like, and it was like, I don't even want to say it was part of Roxy Music. It felt like you had the normal Roxy Music sound, which I guess back then that would have been the normal Roxy Music sound, but listening to it from my perspective, you had that normal Roxy Music sound, plus some funky electronic stuff kind of added in. And it was cool.
It was cool. Yeah, then he broke away, did producing. I think he did the first Devo album with, I think. He did.
I don't know, but it's totally possible.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. I think when he was done producing Bowie, he did that first Devo record.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess relating this back to earlier podcasts we've done together, it was in Phil Collins' book where he talks about how when they were recording the Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, like they were downstairs from where Brian Eno was working on his, I want to say his Green Valley album or whatever. And they all end up going to visit him because they're all huge fans of, or Peter, Mike, and Tony were all huge fans of him. And then Phil ended up recording drums for that album for him.
Oh.
I'm trying to remember which one it was.
Huh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I haven't heard a ton of Brian Eno's solo stuff. I know like the Music for Airports kind of albums. Like there's a whole ambient series that he did that's really good.
Yes. Another Green World. God, where did I get Valley from? Okay.
Oh, okay.
But yeah.
Yes, I've heard that one. Okay.
Yes. I don't know where I got Valley from. Maybe Green Valley. I don't know.
So yeah. Anyways, yeah. Brian Eno did several Bowie albums. Bowie.
Yes, he did. But yeah. Kind of a loose sidetrack. But like Bowie's a great musical artist too. If you're looking for like if you haven't listened to David Bowie, which you're under an impressive rock. But yeah, check him out.
Something that's interesting, time frames for Bowie, he put this soundtrack down year that he did Never Let Me Down, I think.
I just had that open too.
And it's almost like Never Let Me Down is one that's not like super well received with fans.
Well, I do think it's interesting because like he has albums that aren't like really super well received with fans, but even usually those are ones I enjoy or like again I appreciate. Like looking back on it, it's like still good. Yeah, I was 87, so I was probably around the same time.
Yeah, but yeah, the songs on Labyrinth I feel are stronger songs than what made it onto Never Let Me Down. But not that it's bad.
Yeah,
just an observation. Yeah.
Time Will Crawl. Okay, yeah, that's one I haven't listened to yet. But yeah,
there's some good cuts on this one.
Well, Time Will Crawl is awesome. That's a good one.
Glass Spider is a very experimental song that's kind of cool. Beat of Your Drum, Time Will Crawl are all solid songs.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I guess anything to add to Labyrinth or Bowie before we wrap up?
Just one final thing for Labyrinth. David Bowie calls Hoggle. He can't remember Hoggle's name throughout the movie, and one of the names that he calls Hoggle is Hogwart.
Yes.
And that this could be a separate video. But there's another movie called Troll. Did I ever watch that one with you, Bob? There's Troll 1 and Troll 2.
That's the one with Harry Potter and Harry Potter 2, right?
Yeah.
I know I've seen Troll 2.
So I almost wondered if, J.K. Rowling pulled some of her names and things from various, movies that she liked.
Maybe.
Yeah.
She who must not be named.
Yeah, she must. Did I name her out loud?
Oh, God. She's evil.
Such a shame, too. I couldn't believe that.
It's like, what? Why you gotta be that way?
So, no, that's really all I have to say about Labyrinth.
Yeah, Labyrinth is fun.
Yep.
But yes. So next week, Bobby will be coming back after his vacation with his family.
That's unacceptable.
Priorities. What's up with that?
God.
Yeah, what's up with that? But anyways, he'll be back. We'll be talking about Top Gun 2, Jurassic World, and Star Trek 5.
Star Trek 5.
And then George, you'll be coming. Yes.
Did you
We're going through the Star Treks whenever we have an open spot.
Gotcha. Okay.
And we're at 5. And then George will be coming back at some point, do a Garbage and Tears for Fears album ranking. Probably next month. We'll have to figure out the dates for that.
I still need to brush up on my Garbage because I only know the first 2 albums. So I need to get on that.
Yeah, the first 2 are good. Yeah, it's worth diving into though, because their discography is interesting. You kind of see how the band develops as they go.
Okay.
But yes, they actually have the same number of albums as Tears for Fears.
7.
Yes.
Is it 7 actually? That was a wild guess.
7. Yeah, it's 7 and 7. Yeah.
Okay.
And Tears for Fears actually just reached 7. Garbage actually hit 7 before Tears for Fears.
I have heard the new Tears for Fears, so I picked that one up.
Yeah, so have I.
It's good.
Yeah, I like it. I will actually say I actually prefer the new Garbage album though, which I thought was shocking. But yes.
Well, I will check it out. Brian actually really likes Garbage. So
I like them too. They're growing on me a lot the past couple years, especially with the new album. I was like, this is good.
Yeah, he has most of them on CDs, so I can really pull them out when I have time. So, but yeah, I will get on that for sure.
Well, we'll be talking about that sometime next month.
Yep.
But yeah, until next week, everybody take care.
All right. Bye, everybody.
I want to go ahead and add some audio credits at the end here. The theme music you're hearing at the beginning and end of this podcast was written and performed by George Johnson, a very good friend of mine. And my current Patreons are Fel Martins, David Lara, and Lindsay Pankhurst. If you'd like to become a patron, go ahead and follow the link down below. Anything you can provide would be incredibly helpful to this channel. We're barely limping by right now. I'd love to make this my full-time job. I'm miles away from that right now. So any help you could provide, just $1 a month would be amazing. You know you want to. All your friends are doing it.